All right, so for today, we're gonna go off the rails a little bit. I've had this guitar for about 17, 18 years, but it wasn't until recently that it's become actually playable thanks to the guys over at Mobile Guitars. This guitar is definitely not in the best shape, but it's got nothing but character. This thing is absolutely amazing, and it looks how a guitar of this age should look, in my opinion. Today we're gonna go over my 72. It's just an early 70s Norlin era Les Paul Custom that has had a broken neck forever. Honestly, I don't know the exact year. I've tried to pin it down. I know the ballpark, but I'm not a real Les Paul guy. I love the look, but my knowledge isn't, fantastic. There's not really a crazy story about this guitar, but it's such a cool guitar that I had to spotlight it, especially in my collection. I've had this guitar for so long, and I'm so stoked that I actually get to play it now and enjoy it like I should have been for the last 15, 20 years. But before we get into specifications and, stuff like that, let's get into the story of it. Years ago, there was a guitar store on Long Island in Wantagh called Music Services, or Very Cool Guitars, or as I would just call it, Gary's. There was a guy named Gary that owned this awesome shop. I stumbled in there one day with my mom, and I never wanted to leave. He still works in the guitar industry on Long Island, works with the guys at Music Zoo. The dude, when I was a young kid and I would go into this shop, the amount of deals that were made, I probably spent tens of thousands of dollars in that shop as a, late teen, early 20-year-old. It was a lot of money. Originally, I was looking for somebody to just set up guitars, but when I walked into that shop, I saw what they had, and it was just insane. If you've ever been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This store was an absolute collector's dream. I mean, they had stuff from, old Strats and Les Pauls to, 80s BC Riches that I ended up buying, and other stuff. Like, it was the first store to introduce me to things like Tom Anderson guitars and a lot of other custom carving stuff as well. They literally had it all, and it was the first place that I got to sit down and actually play all of these really expensive guitars. You would go into Guitar Center when you were a kid, and all their expensive guitars were just up on the wall, and they never wanted to give you anything. Being 17, 18 years old, they didn't want to give a kid a $30,000 guitar, but at Gary's, I could pick it up off the stand and plug it into a 70s Marshall and blast it. And it was awesome. Don't get me wrong, everybody had their place. All your music stores had their place. Guitar Center, Sam Ash. I mean, even the music store that I grew up going to and taking lessons at, they had a lot of cool guitars there, but it wasn't collector grade stuff. Once I found this place, and then once I started making money in my late teens, early 20s, I could not stop buying guitars from there. And it's one of my favorite memories going and purchasing guitars. I still have so many receipts from that store. Unfortunately, right now, out of the maybe 10 guitars that I've bought from that store, I only have about 3. I think it's this one, an old Ibanez Destroyer, and a Gretsch White Penguin from 1994, which obviously I'll be doing videos on the Destroyer and the Penguin, but this is all about the Les Paul today. I remember walking into this shop and seeing this guitar just sitting on the floor, right? Not on the floor, but it was on a rack, just on the floor. It wasn't hung up, it wasn't, anything like that. And I always liked, Black Beauty Les Pauls. I think a black Les Paul with an ivory binding, it's so classic looking, So I looked at the price tag, and when I looked at it, it said 1971 Les Paul Custom. I believe it's a 71. That's what was on the case up until recently when I took the sticker off. But it said 1971 Les Paul Custom, $1,200. And I said, there's no way that this guitar is $1,200. They picked it up, and then they showed me an absolutely insane headstock crack. Now, everybody knows that Les Pauls are very prone to headstock cracks and stuff like that. These Not so much, because they had a volute in the late 60s, early 70s, when Les Pauls came back and stuff like that, especially with the Norlin era. They had a volute. A volute is a small buildup of wood on the back, and they shape the neck so that it gives it extra strength. This one, even though it had the volute, cracked. And when I say cracked, this thing was destroyed. Here's some pictures. Even the repair job was kind of shoddy, you know. They had let me know that they hadn't done it there, but, you know, someone reputable kind of did it. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good as a lot of people thought it was, and either the glue that they used was just kind of shitty or whatever, and it started to separate at the crack. Luckily for me, it was still playable at that time, but after years and years and years, it just got way worse, and it became unplayable, and I just didn't really want to fuck it up anymore. So I just put it in a case and I left it for 15 years. You know, for me, I always wanted to get it repaired, but unfortunately just either didn't have the money or didn't have the time or didn't know who to go to actually repair it. Like I said, after, you know, 10, 15 years of it just sitting in the case, I decided to bring it by John at Mobile Guitars and see what he could do with it. And luckily, him and Mike Treach, a buddy of his, you know, they fully repair headstocks. They do full work on Les Paul headstocks and full woodwork. And I wanted to go with the strongest option. So we decided to do splines. Now, a lot of people don't like splines because, you know, it's not original or it's not, you know, whatever. I don't care, because this is a guitar that's going to be staying with me forever. I'll tell you this, I could not be happier with the repair itself. When I got this guitar back, it just, you know, the repair was just nuts. And what was awesome is that even though they did the splines, they rebuilt the volute back to what it was originally. You know, and I know for a fact that this guitar now is never going to crack unless I drop it off of a, you know, if I drop it on its headstock, like, yeah, sure, it might crack, but because of those splines, it reinforces that neck so much. Being able to play this guitar again is absolutely fantastic. You know, for those of you that aren't, you know, experts when it comes to repairs, a lot of people would not even notice that this headstock was repaired just because it looks perfect. You know, these guitars, especially specifications wise, you know, very straightforward. Everybody kind of knows it's, you know, a mahogany body, mahogany neck, ebony board, you know, binding around the entire thing. Originally, it came with specific pickups and an ABR1 bridge, or, you know, whatever it may be. None of that stuff is here. I think these were Rio Grande pickups, which I don't really know a lot about. They sound pretty good, but I have a custom 59 and distortion set that Seymour Duncan set up for me that is actually antiqued, and they aged the pickups to make them look like they were supposed to be in this guitar for the last 40 years, which is actually really cool. And I can't wait to get those in. I know a lot of people are going to hate me on this one, but the bridge and the stop tailpiece were off of a 2005 or 2006 LTD Viper 1000. I had a Viper 1000 that I bought from Sam Ash years ago. They told me that the truss rod was stripped. I don't know if they did it just to see if they could buy the guitar off of me, but I took it, stripped everything off of it, pickups, hardware, all that stuff, and I just kept it in a corner for a long time. At the time, I was 16 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. Took that guitar, I sold the husk to some guy for like 40 bucks, 50 bucks. He turns around to me and he goes, yeah, the truss rod's not stripped. They must have been bullshitting you. So now that guy got a full LTD Viper 1000 for 40 bucks. Whatever, shit happens. But like I said, the hardware off of this guitar, even the Spurzl tuners were off of a LTD. Now I know that is an absolute abomination to anyone playing Les Pauls or whatever, but for me it's fine. I don't mind it too much. It functions properly. overall, this thing plays awesome. It sounds awesome. I mean, it's aged to all hell. It's, you know, what a player grade guitar from the early 70s should be. Even the headstock is absolutely destroyed, you know, and it just, in my opinion, it gives the guitar that mojo. It gives that guitar character, you know. I think babying guitars, you know, don't get me wrong. You'll have certain nice guitars, and that's fine, and you want to keep them as nice as possible. That's totally fine. But I think guitars are meant to get beat up, especially if you're in a touring band. It gives them more character, and it gives them a story. Obviously, I don't have much use for this thing live, but you never know. Maybe I'll tune it to drop A and rip it out for a couple songs. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what other guitars that I'm going to put videos out on Tim's Vault. Maybe I'll do these AZs next, or the 3120, or even this one. This one's pretty cool. I'll see you guys next time.